One last problem for this video, because I know you guys don't like fractions, and so I wanted to throw in a fraction problem real quick so you can see how to do those as well, because they are definitely a little bit more challenging because you do have to understand how to add, subtract, multiply, and divide by fractions. So if you're uncomfortable with that, you should probably check out my video on fractions because it's pretty essential for these. But otherwise, we just do it the same as normal. So what we normally do is we have to get x by itself, get rid of its tail. In this case, that's going to be my plus 3/4. So I have to make that plus 3/4 a 0 by subtracting 3/4. So that gives me 0. So that all is going to be gone. Bye-bye. I also have to subtract 3/4 to this side. So this is where it gets a little bit painful, because I'm going to just take this and we're going to do a side bubble over here. I have 2/3 minus 3/4. So if you go back a few years into 6th grade, I believe, we have to remember how to subtract fractions, yeah. And in this case, we have to get our bottom of the fractions to be the same number so that it just kind of slides across the problem. And then we have our fraction answer. So in this case, we have to think of what is the smallest number that 3 and 4 have in common. Well, I'm pretty sure it's going to be 12. So 3 can go into 12, 4 can go into 12, and that's the smallest that we can go. So we have to make these have a 12 on the bottom. So it's going to look like that. So how did we get 12? Well, we multiplied this 3 by a 4 to get 12. 4 times 3 is 12. But what we do to the bottom of the fraction, we have to do to the top. Just like with our multi-step equations, what we do to one side, you got to do to the other.
Math is all about balance.
We always have to balance things. So what is 4 times 2? 8. And on this side, we had to multiply 4 by 3 to get 12. 4 times 3 is 12. Got to do it to the top. 3 times 3, 9. So now we're left with 8 over 12 minus 9 over 12. Well, the 12 is just going to slide across, like I said. What is 8 minus 9? -1. So this is a -1/12. Perfect. So I'm going to refocus and plug this back in where it was here. So I'm left with 1/3 x plus 0, I'm not going to write that, equals -1/12. Cool? So now we have 1/3 times x. So usually I've been telling you that we have to divide by what we see, and that is very true. So what we can do is we are technically going to be dividing by a 1/3 to get x by itself. So this looks crazy, right? But I'm going to do another side bubble because those are very helpful. You should always do those on yours. So I'm just taking that 1/3 divided by 1/3. I'm going to write it over here. Now this is something that we're a little bit more familiar with. It looks less
weird.
And we have to think back. What do we do when we divide fractions? Keep, change, flip. So I'm going to keep my 1/3. Keep, change my division sign to multiplication. And then flip my fraction. So I get 1/3 times 3. 3 over 1. So 1 times 3, 3. 3 times 1, 3. So 3 over 3, what is that equal to? You got it, 1. So now I'm left with exactly what I wanted. I wanted it to be 1 times x, because we know 1 times x is just going to be x. So I have x by itself. So x equals, well, what we do to one side, we have to do the other. So we divided this side by 1/3, so we have to also divide this side by 1/3. So do another little side bubble. We have -1/12. We're going to change the division sign to multiplication. and then flip our fraction to 3 over 1 again. Negative 1 times 3 is negative 3. 12 times 1 is 12. So we have negative 3 over 12, but I'm pretty sure that can simplify. We have to think what number goes into both 3 and 12. 3. How many times does 3 go into 3? Just once. How many times does 3 go into 12? 4. So we have negative 1/4 is our answer. Negative 1/4. Yay! So these are definitely a little bit more tricky. There's a lot of good things going on with the fractions, but if you're making your hands work harder than your head and you're writing everything down, you should really have no problem with it, because this is pretty simple math, just some multiplication and division, but it is all put together into one problem. So that's what makes it much trickier, is that we're doing all these simple things all at the same time. And when you do a lot of things at once, it can definitely get tricky. So we have to organize ourselves. We have to make our work neat. We have to show our work so that we can go back and look at our mistakes. All of these things are
super important.
Because if you don't show your work, you don't know what you did. I don't know what you did. Nobody knows what you did. So that's my advice. Make your hands work harder than your head, and just keep practicing. You got this.